Alright, here with my third of the 4 videos for teams that got with grade as an A- in the 2014 NFL Draft. We got up next, should be no surprise, the Washington Redskins. Did a great job going straight up, coming out the gate in the second round. I think they didn't have a first round pick. They picked Trent Murphy, excuse me, not Trevor Wright. I always get those names confused. Trent Murphy out of Stanford, outside linebacker with the 47th overall pick. Really good defense, contended right up there to be one of the best defenses in the country last year. Right up there with Michigan State University. I thought was a huge contributor there. Got a little bit more of the credit than guys like maybe Josh Morrow or Ed Reynolds, but all around a great defense. Might be the best in the country right there with Michigan State University. Really handed it to Oregon this past year on the defense side of the ball. So they continue to get depth behind guys like Brian Orakpo, Ryan Kerrigan, and last year they started with Brandon Jenkins. Good move by them with their second pick. Looks like with the 66th overall pick in the draft, they got Morgan Moses, offensive tackle out of Virginia. A big body guy. I think he was like over 330 pounds. Definitely a big strong guy, like 6'5", 6'6", if I'm not mistaken. Now they already have left tackle in place with Trevor Williams, who's doing a pretty good job protecting Santana Moss and Kirk Cousins. Robert Griffin and Kirk Cousins. They get a little bit older there though. They need to shore up their other spots. Maybe they put him at right tackle. Maybe they have plans to replace Trent Williams. Maybe to move him to guard. But where they move him to guard, put him at right tackle. Definitely a good pickup with the big body and Morgan Moses out of a big name school there. The third pick, of course, was Spencer Long, number 78 overall. Offensive guard. I think he was tackled at some point in college in Nebraska. Definitely a good pickup there. Continue to bolster the offensive line. Definitely a name I had heard of going into the draft, somewhere on my board. With the fourth pick, they picked cornerback Bashaud Breeland. D'Angelo Hall ain't getting no younger. Of course, they don't have some of the other guys they used to have that were pretty good contributors at defensive back in general, like Chris Horton. So definitely could use some youth there with that movement. They continued on with Ryan Grant from Tulane, a wide receiver with the 142nd overall pick, still knocking them out the ballpark, diversifying their picks, not picking from the same school or the same conference over and over. Definitely keeping a level of diversity there with their picks. Wide receiver out of the top 30 or so, I had in my top 30 out of 40 that could go in the draft. A good receiver there. Next was Lache Seastrunk, running back out of Baylor. Definitely a good pick. They had Roy Halo Jr. play a good 1 year. This past year, Alfred Morris. They definitely could get something out of Alfred Morris the year before, and before that Roy Halo Jr. This past year they were a little out of sorts. They looked okay at times, but like a lot of people say, like Tom Brady coming off injury. Same thing with RG3 coming off injury. He looked a little fanicky back there, a little flustered. A little too easy frazzled, the F words coming out when you get pressure and you don't really handle it well, and you get worried and stressed out, and you get a little quick feet there. You don't want to hurt. You don't want to let yourself to get hurt. So definitely gonna give him a little a little bit more option to hand the ball off to another young guy. Ted Bolster was their next pick, 217th overall at Indiana, a tight end, which is not a bad choice, especially that late in the draft. They can use some, depth behind guys who've been injured, like Fred Davis, guys who've been serviceable, like Paulson. But they really haven't had somebody since Chris Cooley, who's that well known and that much of a go-to guy that you could depend on. But maybe Logan Paulson. Logan Paulson. I forgot the first name, but not Logan Paulson, but the guy who took relief for Fred Davis once he went down last year or so. But hopefully they get healthy there. And add Ted Bolster to the ranks. They also finished out in the draft with Arkansas kicker Zach Hawker, the only other kicker taken in the draft other than Pat O'Donnell from Miami. They took him 228th overall, so they kind of waited on him, but decided to take a kicker still towards the end. To me, though, they already made waves in free agency with undrafted free agents, starting with Cody Hoffman, wide receiver out of Brigham Young University. I'm surprised he wasn't drafted. There must be something that I don't know. From the video I saw and what I heard, yeah, he looks kind of skinny. He's like 6'3" or 4", very tall guy. Don't get me wrong, BYU doesn't have the same schedules that schools like, you know, Ohio State and Alabama and Florida State and Florida and, you know, all these bigger schools have. But still, BYU is not nothing to turn your nose up. They had a really good team this year. They had a good defense put in place. They had a couple of offensive weapons, but nothing like Cody Hoffman. He was pretty much on a whole nother level on that team, but maybe he just looked that way due to the competition they were pitted up against. Still, though, she deserved to be drafted. I don't know why no one else drafted him. They passed him up over 200 times. People passed up on him. Silas Red, an injury-prone running back recently towards the end of his career. I don't know what the deal is with him. I think it's a little cloudy from what I understand, but they picked him up. I thought he was going to be like a top running back. They said that the injury really started to play more into the news feed about him, so he was going to get picked late, maybe 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round, maybe some point in the draft. He ended up not getting drafted, getting picked up by the Redskins. And, of course, they finished out with another highlight, I would say, of their undrafted free agents, Arkansas defensive lineman Robert Thomas, a guy who had in the top 20 or 30 defensive linemen. Didn't expect for him to go very high, maybe not even to get drafted, but still not a bad pickup from a good program there in Arkansas. That finishes out what the Redskins did. I mean, pretty much hits all across the board. Very diverse set of picks, you know, with, you know, differing conferences, a variety of positions. No really holes in what they did. No shame in the game there. But that being said, next video is going to be the last video, one of the more difficult drafts to have pulled off. But I'm sure you can guess who I think was the 4th out of the 4 teams total that did an A-, not an A+ like the next teams did. But it's going to be the last A- team coming up next, and stay tuned for that.